Today we're actually going to do a proper unboxing. I know that sounds silly, of Licensed Troubleshooter, I should say. And that sounds silly because you've seen copies before in this studio, in my hands, etc. But everything I've shown you thus far has actually been pre-production or demo copies that I've received that, well, I've been promoting and using, obviously. But these are my proper, what we would call retail edition, true blue, complete finished product, standard editions. And it's the first time I'm seeing them, and I wanted to film this unboxing. It's 100 pounds of books. There's like 5 of these bloody boxes. I can't get them all in frame. And it's only 10 books, by the way. They're like 10 pounds a piece. Sorry, Headstamp, and sorry to all the nice folks that are shipping these, packing these, etc. Your service is appreciated. So today I just wanted to kind of show some of these through, and then, maybe go through the book a little bit, because I haven't done that yet on camera, telling you what I really love about this, my favorite pieces, parts, etc. So I hope you'll bear with me a little bit, and let's get this bad boy open. Today we'll do a quick wrist check and blade check, I suppose, and gun check. We'll just go through the whole thing. We've got the Omega Seamaster on, of course. This was my wrap gift to myself. It is the Brosnan era reference number. Don't expect me to list off all those sub-digits. I've never been a numbers guy. But it's a 2006, which is the last year manufactured version of the watch. I picked it up after the book actually was shipping as a wrap gift to myself. Carrying today to open the boxes with the Gerber 06 Auto of Spectre fame. Massive knife for a folder, but it's a really great, robust piece for stuff like this. And then just to kind of keep it with all the firsts, I've got my Smith & Wesson era Walther PPK 380. It was my first PPK when I was a kid. It is still one of my best workhorses, shooters, etc. And I love this thing. So now that we've done all of that, let's go ahead and start tearing open some boxes. So the one cool thing about Headstamp is just how aggressive they are with the packaging here, because these books are truly, and when I say these books, I'm not trying to like over promote my work, but the Headstamp product in general, which is why I work with them, is a phenomenal and beautiful finished product. A book like this, a book about something James Bond related, had to be that strong, because I needed it to be something that would look amazing to folks that were Bond fans who might not be super interested in the world of small arms. And you know what? That's okay. That's what the book's for. It's to get you excited about that and to show them in a way that you probably have never seen them before. We're just going to be tossing a lot of cardboard, gang, because there are books stacked on books in here. So for those who are unfamiliar with the book, there were 3 different versions on the front end. So I'm going to go ahead and answer those questions really quick. This was our cinematic edition. The 2 editions that you will see today that you will not be able to buy anymore are the cinematic and the literary. These were done as pre-sale items during a Kickstarter many moons ago. Unfortunately, things were delayed due to tariff wars, etc. So we didn't get things out the door as anticipated, but they are here, and that's just a chapter in the journey. But this cover is one of my absolute favorites of the 3. The cinematic cover is absolutely gorgeous. I love the spine of this. I have one of these on display in my living room on my bookshelf next to my Signet editions and Jack Carr edition books. So the cinematic is really interesting. I love the illustration, but it's not the standard. I don't know when we're going to get to the standard edition. We'll just have to keep cutting boxes open, because like I said, we have, these are what we would call our author copies. So these are the ones that I get to keep to, potentially gift to close friends and relatives, or frankly just hoard like a dragon in the studio. You guys are going to see them plastered against the walls. Well, here I am talking about the standard edition, and here it is right here. So this makes it really easy to go through that. So on the top is our retail edition of this box. This is the blue cover with the gold embossed, the gold foil pages. This is our standard edition of the book. So while there was a literary and cinematic that were pre-sale only, this is the book you can buy today through headstamppublishing.com. We'll go ahead and pull the plastic off of this so you can get a better look at the cover. We'll see if I can do that without destroying the book. But yeah, as I was saying, I guess, Headstamp's finished product is absolutely gorgeous. And in order to protect it, there is an inordinate amount of cardboard, padding, etc. because these books just shuffle around me. Like I said, 10 pounds a book is a pretty stout and serious thing. So here we are, the standard edition cover. It's like this faux soft leather with embossed gold foil for those firearms there. On the cover, you will see the Beretta 418, the ASP, the Colt Detective Special, or I'm sorry, that's Police Positive, which is the first Bond gun you see, Walther PPK, Walther P99, the Golden Gun, and of course the WA-2000. On the spine of the book, we have the James Bond coat of arms restylized for licensed troubleshooter by our incredibly talented graphic designer from Headstamp Publishing, who also did the cinematic cover and some of the other pieces I'm going to show you in a little bit. Let's see if we can find a literary edition, though, just so you can see all three side by side. Because this is quite the thing. We've still got 3 bloody boxes here. I don't think we need to cut all of them open. We're just going to start hacking until we end up with everything we need in front of us. So I appreciate you guys joining along. Let's see what we have here. And that would be another cinematic. You know, I couldn't have planned this any worse if I tried, but that's all right. That's kind of half the fun of doing it live, right? And we're just going to keep digging, and I bet there's another cinematic. There is not. Would you look at that? Okay. We have a winner, ladies and gentlemen, with the literary cover. Literary is, again, I keep saying the word favorite. It's not really fair. I really love this one, though, because it does really encapsulate the spirit of the Ian Fleming era of James Bond. We really tried our best to emulate and capture the stylized covers that he did with Richard Chopping on the first editions of the books back in the day. This is inspired by Goldeneye, the private home and beach in which James Bond was born at the hand of Ian Fleming. He swam off of his own beach at his house, stylized up there. He was very fond of throwing a machete into the sand. There's some really cool photos of Fleming walking with the press doing that. He always included flowers. So we found a native flower of Jamaica, wrapped it around the machete, and added it on here. And then in the bottom corner, underneath that little sticker there, we'll get that off in a little bit, is the Walther PPK. It's actually this exact Walther PPK, with not with the suppressor on, but you get the idea. Illustrated on the cover with the Burns Martin triple draw shoulder holster. Again, one of my own that I stylized up, mocked up, and sent to my friend Nathan over at Seaburn Art to illustrate, to kind of capture the essence of Fleming's Bond, to celebrate the literary Bond. Because my book, it doesn't just encapsulate the cinematic character, nor does it just encapsulate the novels. We tried our best to celebrate succinctly both the literary and cinematic Bond, including Fleming, all continuation authors, all cinematic appearances, including the unofficial films. All of them get their time in the light inside of Licensed Troubleshooter. So, literary pre-sale edition, cinematic pre-sale edition, and then the standard edition book. This book is available now through headstamppublishing.com. You can go directly there and go to the Licensed Troubleshooter page and pick it up. It's available in a standard edition, a signed edition, and then a clamshell edition. So I kind of want to go through, now that we have that out of the way, some of the cool things that I love from inside the book. Not the photo of me. I mean, it's not a bad photo. Eli did a great job with it, but it's not what I'm trying to show you. So first thing right out of the gate is you will notice when you open this book, every single section is thoughtfully illustrated, again, by the incredibly talented gentleman by the name of Justin from Headstamp. He and I worked together in concert to create these moments, these illustrated moments that capture the essence of each era of Bond, from the Fleming to, let's see, get the maybe Gardner one to give you an idea of another literary version of the character that's captured on the page here. Yeah, this is one of my favorites, the John Gardner. You've got, of course, the asp in his hand, and then the snake in asp, and then that awful Gardner era car, all illustrated there with some really cool textures, etc. We do that through every single era to, again, kind of like, because the guns aren't existing in a vacuum, they are informed by the world in which James Bond is living in that era. And that era is encapsulated as best we can by these illustrations. And I hope that it's kind of like a tasting note at the front end. It informs you of what you are to expect to see throughout the rest of it. So, you know, you've got that Connery era illustration here with the DB5, the repeating circular pattern reminiscent of Dr. No, etc. So we really focused in on that. And now it's a book about guns, right? So it's great to have these illustrations and things, but I love the work by James Rupley here to really bring these guns to life in a way that I guarantee you have never seen them before. For instance, right at the top, You've got the Beretta 418, James Bond's original service pistol. This is no bigger than your palm. And the detail shots in this book are just, I mean, they're just insane. Um, this book's about 2 foot wide when you open it up, and you've got full-size profile views of the firearm. You've got the safety, the magazine catches, etc. And so every section of the book, what we do is I went through and told the story of the firearm through the lens of its actual history, how it might have been used, if at all, by real military, law enforcement, special forces, and then we tell the actual history of the gun through the world of James Bond. So we talk about reality, we talk about real special forces, and we talk about the James Bond connection. And we go through tip to tail how it's used by 007. Because these pieces are a massive part of the story. And so I really hope when you pick up a copy of Licensed Troubleshooter, it's a 560-page volume. I'm not expecting you to sit down and read it, especially if you're not really a firearms person right out of the gate, just all at once, right? To me, this is a book that you can set on the coffee table, maybe the bar cart. I've got a copy on mine. And you kind of just get to break open over a cocktail or over your morning coffee and kind of just ruminate over a small bit of Fleming or Bond or Special Forces history and just kind of absorb that and walk away. I'd love for you to read the whole bloody thing. We put a lot of effort into it, but it's kind of like a tasting note thing. You kind of just get to absorb it one little bit at a time. It's the kind of book that I hope you're able to take out when you're maybe experiencing Fleming or one of the continuation authors for the first time to provide you those essential visuals, or while you're watching a film for the millionth time and you want to learn a little bit more about what's in his hand. This is the book for you. We also included, because again, as I continue to say, James Bond's firearms do not exist in a vacuum. They are part of the character, and as such, they should not be the only thing that this book included. Now, in fairness, it is a book about firearms, so the first appendix is about how to carry like James Bond, the different holsters and things that he used, right? But as we kind of flow through here, we wanted to make sure, I was really, really keen on making sure that the other lifestyle elements of Bond were included. There's a great article earlier in the book inside the Connery section by my friend Matt Spazer of Bond Suits about the conduit cut by Anthony Sinclair and how it was informed by the ability to carry concealed. Later on, in Appendix B, we talk about James Bond's watches. We go through the timepieces of James Bond, because an EDC is really what we did in the front end. It's a blade, it's a wallet, it's the watch you wear, it's the firearm you carry. It's not just the one piece. Everything is informed by one another. The holster that you wear is informed by the suit and how it's tailored. And so making sure all of that is included and celebrated is really, really critical. And then, of course, the third appendix, because you can't have a James Bond book without mentioning alcohol, is some of Bond's drink selections, including a handful of recipes. One of my personal favorites is a rum Negroni that I discovered while following the Goldeneye, now a resort, Instagram account, which is taking the amazing Blackwell rum, which is part of, you see it very briefly in No Time to Die, and you replace the gin with that, and you just have a delightful summer cocktail. So we make sure we include that as a bonus recipe, as the actual Negroni is used in Thunderball, if I remember correctly. No, I'm sorry. It's in one of the short stories. See, this is why I have my own book. It's nice to have this. It has all my research right in front of me. And then it is, yeah, so it's used right there. I swear maybe it's in one of the novels. Or no, it's not in the novels. It's in the film Thunderball. You see him crack open the thing of Campari. See, I'm not crazy. I'm just not the best. And so like Sean Connery in, what am I trying to say here? Sean Connery in The Last Crusade. See, I'm all over the place here. I have the book, so I don't have to remember everything. And that's what this is. To me, it is my compendium of everything that I have rambled about on Commando Bond via Instagram the last, going on 6 or 7 years now. I mean, I would know if it's 7 because, well, I would probably have talked about that at length. But I believe this is the 6th anniversary of that account. In a lifetime of being a James Bond fan, reading everything from the DK series books I have here, to The Bedside Companion by Raymond Benson. I've got a whole library of books back there that were part of the research of this journey, because you can't just like quickly write something like this. It had to be well informed by, like I said, the actual history of the firearms, the history of James Bond. So we've got books on the shelf here, books on the shelf there, and it has been such an incredible journey. The first few pages, if you could take a moment when you get into the book to just read over the acknowledgments. If you're a fan of the world of James Bond and you're a fan of the James Bond community, as you go through those acknowledgement sections, you're going to notice a lot of names of people that I want to thank here very quickly. First, I want to go through the contributors to this book while I'm doing this video, because with a book of this size, it's nice to have these vocal breakups and have other subject matter experts, like I mentioned with Matt Spazer, lend their voice to the work. So in addition to myself, my incredible friend, personal mentor, and just one of the best people I've ever had the privilege to call anything in my life, a friend beyond measure, is Jack Carr. We've got his books here. We've got one of his cases up there. Contributed an amazing piece. One of my best friends, Eli Duckworth, wrote a great history of the 1911 and 1903. Jordan Flair of Forgotten Weapons wrote an incredible section on the guns of Goldeneye in '64. I grew up outside of the Goldeneye era. I actually grew up during like Nightfire, Everything or Nothing, that kind of world. And I knew about Goldeneye. I had been playing it over the last couple of years, but man, Jordan lived that game. And so I was asking him time and again about this. And he's part of that family of Forgotten Weapons, which means he's part of the Head Stamp Publications family. And so it just made sense to ask him to take part in that. Matt Spazer, what else do I need to say? I wanted an article about James Bond suits. I could write about the conduit cut. I wear the conduit cut. But anytime I want to do anything related to clothing or James Bond, the only place I have gone my entire life has been Matt's website. So it was an essential to include him in there. I mean, he's literally written the book on the subject alongside Peter Booker. James Williamson, of course, of Feuchtland Tactical and now Heckler & Koch USA, writing an amazing section about the P7 pistol, which makes its very brief, tragically brief, I should say, appearance in Icebreaker. And then we have Paul Woodmansee, my dear friend from the world of Instagram, an incredible historian who is my age, who had been bandying back and forth with me about Special Forces history. I knew if I wanted a couple sections that I didn't write about historical figures, he was the only person I could talk to, and so it was a delight to include him. Again, James Rupley, incredible photographer, creative director of Head Stamp Publishing. This book would not exist without you. Thank you for taking a leap of faith with me on this, my friend. Ian McCollum, you've listened to me far too much. You've bought too many Bond guns because of me. Thank you. And then we had an amazing proofreader by the name of Heather. Layout and design again by Justin Baird. You crushed it, dude. And then the front piece art and the cover of the literary edition by my friend Nathan Tay of Seaburn Art. Again, the acknowledgement section is 2 pages across here, but I just want to give you a couple more names that you might know, or if you don't know, I would ask you to go seek out. First and foremost is my amazing friend, Keith Ford. This book literally would not exist without Keith. Keith opened amazing doors into private collections for me, and at least 2/3 of this book exist because of his generosity and friendship. Thank you, Keith. Other amazing folks like James, like I've already mentioned, Doug Pattinson of the CIA, John Stryker Meyer of Mac v. SOG, Jack, Stuart Anderson Wheeler, calling me from the top of Mount Kilimanjaro while hunting Africa. Thank you for your time. Raymond Benson and his friends Gary Rosenfeld and James McMahon, who helped him write his novels. That was a great conversation and an amazing interview. Dave Hall of the U.S. Navy SEALs, Fred Burton of the DSS, Rob Garrett, Cameron Hopkins, thank you, Cam, Jonathan Ferguson, Steve Palanche of Griffin and Howe. I wouldn't have a Holland and Holland here without them, and they did an amazing double spread photo. Check it out in the Roger Moore section. Phil Marshall, Jake Dwyer. Jake and I did like an 1.5 hour long video on the guns of James Bond. Thanks for letting me ramble at you, my friend. It's always a pleasure to hang out and chat. Rumor von Braun. I talked about Matt's website already and how I've always kind of lived on that site. I literally grew up alongside bondlifestyle.com. Like I remember having like my grandmother's old computer with a stack of floppy disks I didn't know how to use, cracking that thing open and going to bondlifestyle.com in the early 2000s. This is the 20th anniversary this year of that website. And just learning everything that I could about the props and the pieces. I have a Galco executive shoulder holster because I sent it to my grandfather one year before they went out of production. So thank goodness I did at the time. So Remit, I owe you quite a bit, actually. And, you know, it's been surreal getting to know guys like this, these names and these people who made such an impact on my life growing up and helped me develop as a fan of this world even further. Remmer supplied some amazing photography for this book, for the Golden Gun, for the Anderson Wheeler double rifle that he took at the Anderson Wheeler showroom. Just so many things that literally could not be in this book if not for him. So for the research help, the history, and the photography, Remmer, I am forever in your debt. Of course, I've already mentioned Matt. David Zaritsky, amazing friend, amazing personal mentor. Again, the world of Bond is a better place because of you, my friend. So thank you. So many conversations were had, so many doors were opened because of David. This book exists. Again, it's a 2-page spread of acknowledgement. And I'm going to kind of go through these names as fast as I can because I want to give them their time that I can here. Because without these guys, this book would not exist. I can't keep saying this. This is a huge book. It's a massive undertaking. It was a project management task a lot of times because it was just getting the right people together and getting the right information from them in order to give you the best final product. So I'll try to be a little more brief here, but I'm just going through some of these names because, man, the impact made on me has been so immense. Lorenzo, dude, thank you so much for your watches. Omega Bond Watches on Instagram. We used a lot of his photography of his watches we took while in Las Vegas for the book. And Kyle Barbeau, man, sorry, Kyle, you're above Lorenzo. Not that there's any order to this, but you're above Lorenzo here, and I just skipped right over you. Kyle was nice enough to survive the not the Benson novels. We love the Benson novels, the Gardner era, alongside me to go through and make sure, because there's a lot of repetitive things that happen in the Gardner books. The Third Reich rises for like the 80th time, and there's a million triple crosses that happen. And so when I read all of them in a month, and I was tabbing every single page where a gun appeared, etc., I needed a second set of eyes and someone I could trust to talk about that stuff with. And Kyle was that guy. You're a great friend, Kyle. Kyle was one of the first people to actually see this book. He was visiting Kansas City like 2 days after my first edition came. So that was really cool to have a drink together and show him this book when it first launched. Sean Lurwell, thank you, my friend. Ed Maggiani, Henry Chan, Justin Black. Again, Ian, James, and Justin. Kevin Minch, he is another mentor and friend who was at my college. He was someone that I worked for. He was part of the debate program. He was nice enough to proof a lot of this work for me and just be a bouncing ideas off kind of gentleman. And he has been so generous with his time. Thank you, Kevin. Wolf-Heinz Flaumer and Ike Flaumer, and Bernard Noble, Monica, Lucas, Cody, Jens, Chris. I'm grouping this all together because this is the Walther Arms family. Without these guys, I wouldn't have gone to Germany. I wouldn't have been able to hold the actual Living Daylights WA2000. We wouldn't have the original Walther PPK manuals, the WA2000 technical sheets. There's so much crazy stuff in here that I didn't even know existed until I went to Germany, got to go through their archives with them, and actually photograph it for myself. Thank you guys so much for such an incredible journey. I talk about it in detail in the foreword of the book, but you will see the fruits of that labor permeated throughout the entire book. You will see photos, manuals, stories that just wouldn't have existed without their time, effort, and energy. So thank you all for that. Ashley Ellison, you are the best, Ashley. Really appreciate everything you've done for me over the last few years. Privileged to call you a friend. Thank you. Jordan Buchanan, Devin Shook, Noah Martin, Ellie Miller, Drew Nelson, and Brandon Self. These are great personal friends and family in many cases that had to listen to a lot of rambling, had to bounce a lot of logistical planning and ideas off of. Ellie is my sister-in-law. She's incredibly talented. She did some calligraphy for me inside the book here that you will notice in the Fleming section. That meant a great deal to me, and it really elevated the project even further. So it's one of my favorite photos in the book because not only is I'll just kind of go through the story very quickly, I guess, here. We recreated the letter that Bond gets, the note with his firearms at the end of Moonraker after his car crashes. M gives him a new set of pistols with a note that says, "You may be needing these," on with his famous green ink. Ellie is very talented with like calligraphy and handwriting, so I gave her handwriting samples of Ian Fleming's actual boss during his time at Naval Intelligence, who he based M off of, for her to recreate that handwriting. She then used my great-grandfather's stationery from his time in the U.S. Navy when he was a commander to recreate that note beautifully using that handwriting as a sample. It's something that, unless I rambled at you like this right now, you would never know. It's kind of a little blink and you miss it nod. But, Ellie really poured her heart out to make that happen. So thank you, sis. Brent, Kevin Williams, Eli Duckworth, Rob Biankin, Brett Edelman, Trang, Dina, all of these folks from the firearms community that really stepped up and made this book so much better. Rob Biankin, being the owner and co-founder of Cabot Guns, has been an incredibly generous friend. He got me in touch with Stuart Anderson Wheeler. I work in the industry still to this day because of him, and it's been such a privilege and blessing. So thank you, my friend. Jason Mariano of Vintage Gun Leather Today. Half the cool holsters in this book exist exclusively because of his archive and sending stuff my way. I now have multiple Burns Martins thanks to you, my friend. You're a bad influence on the wallet, but you were an incredible friend. Logan and Alan, thanks for putting me on your show, guys. Max Tate, Quentin Mount, Nick Guzan. Again, more people that just really like stepped up to the plate, let me ramble at them, and put some really cool things together. And then we've got family names in here: Jim and Pam Stout, my parents, my grandparents, my wife Emma, who has tolerated me doing this for, like we said, 6 years. 2 years of watching me write without, any expectation of this. We had a contract, but like, man, everyone's like, oh, I'm gonna write a book, right? Um, and here we are, and it's actually here. She believed in me. She is my best friend, and this book exists because of her. And so it means a lot to be able to have her right there in the center of the page. The Rock Island Auction Company, for the guns that we couldn't find, existed at Rock Island. I've talked about Rock Island all the time. I love visiting Rock Island. It's the place I go when I can't find it anywhere else, and they stepped up time and again. Then we'll just go through these companies really fast. Beretta Italy, HK, Silencer Co., Grayman and Company, Allegheny Arms, Griffin and Howe, CH Holsters, the Black Triangle Group, Galco Gun Leather, Bullard Gun Leather, Vintage Gun Leather Today, Watches of Espionage, Movements of Actions, the NRA Museum. Phil at the NRA Museum recently passed away, but he was a very gracious individual who really helped me out with a lot of the pieces here. So thank you, Phil. You're remembered in this book. And of course, the man himself, Ian Fleming. Now, if you dropped off in the last few minutes while I've gone through these, I completely understand, but I really just wanted to share this with you because I know these stories aren't going to be shared otherwise because I'm the only one that has them in my bloody head. So, you're kind of captive here if you stuck around. So thank you. And I'm kind of thinking this is where we're going to taper off. We're about 25 minutes into this bloody thing, guys. But yeah, this book is a passion project, lifetime in the making. Everything from the ASP is in here to the Golden Gun. My goodness, Remmert's photography in here, man. Look at that. It's so cool. Is celebrated in great detail. I mean, it's stuff that I can't wait to share with you. It's the kind of stuff that I hope to have real conversations with you guys about as you read through the book and you learn stuff about, how the OSS actually used certain firearms, how Ian Fleming was informed by real operators at the time, how he founded his own intelligence unit, and how their firearms influenced the firearms of James Bond. These are real stories that make a huge impact on the world of Bond, and frankly, that the world of Bond made on the world. It's kind of this like chicken and egg thing where both were symbiotically engaging with and informing one another. So there's so many cool stories in here that I wish I could spend all day sitting here telling you about, but frankly, that's why I put it in a book. So if you have not ordered Licensed Troubleshooter: The Guns of James Bond, I'll say it one more time. You can now pick it up in this edition at headstamppublishing.com. You can go there, nab it, and I hope you enjoy it as much as I have putting it together because this has been the privilege of a lifetime. Thank you all so very much for your support. There's been so many kind things said about the book already from folks that were patiently waiting during the extended pre-sale process. Thank you all for your patience and generosity and support of the project. And for those who are hopping on as it officially is real and in my hands, thank you so very much for your patience as well, because I know everyone's been waiting that was interested in the project. And I just can't wait to see it in more hands. It's been so surreal as a guy who loves photograph books and guns and things like that all together, to see other people doing that with my book. It's so bloody cool. Thank you guys so very much for your time. Have a lovely day, and enjoy.